Okay. Start stream. Yes. Starting. Okay. It says we're streaming.
I didn't even have time to change my clothes today. I took my tie off, so I'm not that much of a dweeb. But
Well, that's the other thing. I think he's going to request that I wear a tie.
I'm not required to. I choose to because I want to stand out among my peers.
And I will admit that's a good way to stand out. But my goal is never to stand out.
Right.
My goal is to blend in.
There's an old Japanese saying that says the nail that stands up gets hammered down.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole culture is all about conformity, where we as Americans are like, if you ain't making noise, you ain't making nothing.
Exactly.
So I've got a problem here. I've had it forever with ground isolation because I've got so many things plugged into and it makes noise. So I bought this little device here. It's a ground
USB
insulator. Yeah, it's a USB ground insulator. Okay. And I plug it in and the noise completely goes away, except that it introduces a new type of noise of its own. So it makes all the noise go away, but then every couple of seconds there's a pop, pop.
Well,
pop.
What does the other end of that go into?
My mixer.
Oh. Yeah. What? Yeah, it would have to. I know nothing about electricity.
Well, it's a ground loop, right? So there's some capacitors in here that absorb the charge, and my guess is that it's not big enough because that pop I'm hearing is the capacitor discharging.
Exactly.
So this was the $60 version of it. Imagine that. I can buy the $200 version of it with larger capacitors, or I can just continue using Audacity to filter the noise.
I know, but don't you find it ironic, Mark? The tool you paid money for is the same tool that kills computers.
Yes,
just slightly different. Oh man!
So I've never sent something back to Amazon, but I think I may be sending this back, and it's not their fault, right? They sent me what I delivered, what I asked for, but it doesn't do what I wanted it to.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It could work, but it ain't. Okay, let's see. I got my Audacity up and running. Okay, that looks good. Everything looks good from there. Let me just. Oh yeah. Let me do this. Control C. Send now. Send now. Close window. Okay. I am right there. Okay, can you go ahead and launch your Audacity?
That's ready.
Hit record in 3, 2, 1, record. Tap.
Tap, tap,
tap. My volume is down. Let me see. Testing. Yeah, it's better. I used to think that was only a Windows thing, where the OS would try to automatically adjust your volume level. Like with Skype, it does it a lot. But I swear the last couple versions of Ubuntu I've loaded have all done it too. And
it's because they're trying to be more Windows-like.
I know, but I don't like it. I need a checkbox that says, leave this alone.
Right. I think my guess is that more hardware manufacturers are building it into the chip.
It wouldn't shock me. Okay. I think I'm good. Give me a second. Let me start the hard recording.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Android App Addicts, episode 406. Is that where we are? I think so. Something like that. My name is Mark. With me this week is Dor. Once again, the manager, Eric Ardini, is off on his secret mission. He has not yet returned. He said that he could tell us what it is, but he said he'd have to kill us afterwards. So you're stuck with just us. But that's more than enough. Hey, Dor, how are you today?
I'm doing okay, and I did check it with my wife, and she said, "No, it's not cool if he kills you," so he couldn't tell me what was going on.
Yeah. The problem is you can only do it once.
Exactly, exactly. Now, I do have good life insurance, but it wasn't clear whether or not it would pay off, so she optioned to be safe in this. So, I hope everything is good. I hope your car is fixed, and I hope
Ah,
your and I also hope your child has short-term memory and completely forgot about the cast and the crutches.
yeah, she's still actually overdoing it a little bit, and after she does too much, she hurts. But yeah, that's she'll get over that pretty quickly. As far as the car, no, we're dealing with insurance companies, and that's going to take forever. So I called my insurance company, and they said, "Yeah, you got to call his insurance company." What? Isn't that why I pay you hundreds of dollars to do that? Aren't you supposed to at least make a phone call for me? So then I called his insurance company, and then they were asking me questions like, prior to the accident, was there any damage to his vehicle? I don't know. I never met the guy. He just rear-ended my wife. I don't know nothing. I hate insurance companies. Their whole purpose, their stated purpose in life is to take money from you and never give it back.
Well, to make it as difficult as possible to get back.
Right.
That's like, the par for the course kinda thing. You would think since I wanna say it was Hoover said it back in, the 1860s or whatever, I don't know who it was, said, "America is now a service country. We no longer mass produce products all that get shipped all over the world. We're we are now a service-oriented country." You would think by now, 80 years later, we would have companies actually focusing on customer service. Granted, it would be a premium price, but offering you services like you never have to bother yourself with calling up other companies. You pay us to handle that for you. But no, we still haven't learned as a country that people would be willing to pay for certain premium customer service experiences.
Well, there are people that have that. They have, executive assistants and things like that. But the prices that you have to pay to get that are not worth it. I mean, if I could, there are services like TaskRabbit, things for exactly like that. But I would love to just have somebody on call that I, had on retainer. And anytime there was something I didn't want to deal with, I just send it to them. And I could have that if I were willing to pay enough money for it.
Right.
And I'm
It,
not.
yeah, see, I'm lazy and cheap. So I kind
Right.
of, what I do is I mitigate it by using Lucy phone. So at least I don't have to wait on hold. That's at least a smidge, a scotch, an inkling of sanity back into my life when I don't have to wait on hold for sometimes 20, 30 minutes.
I haven't tried Lucy Phone. I mean, I tried it once, like when the service first was created, but I have never actually used it on a regular basis. I got to remember that.
Yeah, sometimes you'll have to dial the number 2 or 3 times because the other party will hang up on it, but sometimes on the very first try, it will just work and it will work as advertised. It's one of those things I've literally, like, burned it into my psyche, and I literally for, like, a year had it as a icon on my Android device right on my home screen, so I didn't forget about it.
That's good. So speaking of home screens, I have an update about Android Marshmallow. I complained about it last week, so I wanted to give an update. I decided to see what I had done before was an in-place upgrade. So this time I totally wiped my phone, started over again, and performance is better. But there's some other things that I lost as a result of that. For example, Android Pay no longer works because it's a rooted device. And when I did the upgrade, it was working, and so it continued to work. But now it's recognized that it's a rooted device, and I get that. I mean, you're talking about money and banking, and if you can't be sure, but there should be a button there. And I know I agree, I consent that this is an okay button, but there isn't one. But overall, my misgivings about Android Marshmallow have kind of gone away to some degree. It's still early days, but it's performing much better after a complete factory wipe and reinstall.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer Android in its current incarnation and for the last 5 incarnations or 6 ever since, like, Cupcake, it is the essence of, like, Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows XP. And what I mean by that is nobody in their right mind did in-place upgrades for old version of Windows
Right.
because you knew bad times were a coming. Stuff would only get worse as time goes on. I no matter what kind of OTA update I would get, even if it was just a security patch, I would instantaneously, once that was done, go back to, like, a stock and reset the device back to its defaults, which it would still have all the updates on it kinda thing. And it always seemed like it was better, but, it's just one of the things and the see, you would like the button saying I accept delivery device. I still wish there was a easy button you could have right on your home screen that would say root, unroot,
Yeah.
root, unroot. So you could leave the phone unrooted until the time that you need it, and then simply and easily, bang, you have root.
But I will say that the reasons for rooting are getting less and less. For example, Android Marshmallow now things that take advantage of the API back up their data. So a lot of the reasons that I always rooted was to use Titanium backup. I don't need that anymore. When I did my factory wipe and reinstall, I got about 90 of my 160 or so apps back before I used Titanium. Also, Android has included a file explorer in Marshmallow. Which was never there before. You always had to have, some other tool, and to get anything useful, you had to have root. Now, I'm not sure how useful the file explorer is, but I think that what's happening is that Google and the developers of Android are beginning to realize that you just can't keep uh, people from rooting the device, and if you withhold functionality from them. And if they want a secure, stable environment, you've got to give people that functionality, and it's getting there. And my next device, I may not root.
Right. Oh, I do think it's inevitable. Sooner or later, the only people who are going to root are the severe tinfoil hat people.
Right.
Um, the only other edge case, and I mean extreme edge case, are the people that insist on having granular software firewalls on their device,
Which I don't.
or right, or you want like X privacy, which is the enable you to not only block an app from accessing, whether it be your contacts or GPS, but actually allowing spoofed data. So if the app would crash if it can't access the contacts, you can have X privacy give it spoofed contacts. So technically the app will still work, but it's not actually connecting to your contacts. So there's always going to be those edge n- n- people, but I do believe the huge majority it's getting unbelievably less and less necessary. The main reason I root now is so I can have seamless tethering without issue or question.
And that's still an issue. Some phones work fine. They have to go into group. What's the word? It's not bridge. It's you're not an access point. You're a peer.
Peer-to-peer networking, yeah.
Yeah, and it works for most devices, but like for some dumber old like honeycomb devices, things like that, some appliances don't allow that. But for the most part, that problem is more or less solved. I did also wanted to, before we get to the apps, one other thing. Um, I got an opportunity this weekend to buy a OnePlus 2. In fact, I got one, not one, but two invites. And I gotta say, I had it in the cart. It was queued up. I was ready to go. I was talking to Door about it, and in the end, I decided to pass on that device. And here's the reason. Um, it's a fine device. I believe that it is. I've read the reviews. It's great. That there are two main reasons that turned me off of it. And the one is that there were a few things that were changes just for the sake of changes. For example, the USB-C. It's just a new connector, and I get that you're moving with the new world, but all my charging devices are currently um, micro USB, and so it would just be an extra cost. The lack of NFC I know you don't agree with me on that, but for me, I think NFC is something that you have to have. But mostly, the number one thing was that there are better phones out there for the same or less money. That was not the case of the OnePlus One. There wasn't a better phone for less or the same money. But you can go get the Moto X Pure Edition, which spec for spec is as good or beats it. For it's not a lot cheaper, but it's like $50 cheaper. Or for just a little bit more, you can go get the new Nexus 6P, which is a half an inch larger for just a little bit more money. So in the end, I just decided that OnePlus didn't have the value proposition with the OnePlus 2 that they did the OnePlus One.
Oh yeah, absolutely. To me, it's bang for the buck. Bang for the buck is how I judge and rate everything. And if you put the One Plus One next to the One Plus Two, there is no bang for the buck with the One Plus Two. You're spending a lot more money with only getting little tiny things that are in some cases better, and then you're missing stuff. To you, the USB-C, and I think to a lot of people, the reason why the USB-C thing is let's say a non-starter is because we are going to have here very shortly stuff on the market like the Z snaps,
Right? Which I've bought some. I was a backer of that.
right, which is only micro USB. So
Right.
you're going to have that. So if you get the new phone and then you get the Z snaps, well, now it's useless. um NFC is one of those things I still want to have. I'm just not going to be the guy that uses it day in day out kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think what I'm going to do is probably either the Moto X Pure or the 6P. Those are the phones that I'm looking at right now. I can't quite decide if I want a phone as massive as the 6P.
Well, I encourage you, put it in your hand, grab it, hold it, feel it, touch it.
Yeah, we're
Uh,
going to do that. I got to find somebody with one first.
right. And I will say, to me, the 6P, the 5X, and the Moto X Pure are all three pretty superior to the OnePlus 2. And I typically don't say that kind of stuff very lightly, but I mean, they just are. Everyone I know that's touched one and has one, I know a couple people now with that Moto X, and they will not stop telling me how good it is, how nice it is.
And my daughter turned 13 this week, and that was that in my house. That's the magic age where you get a cell phone at 13. And I bought her the Moto G, which is in terms of the shell the same as the Moto X, the only difference is the internals. And that's a really nice phone for a couple $100. It was cheap. In fact, I would consider it superior to my Nexus 5 from last year. For I think it was 250. I mean, it's a dirt cheap phone, and the battery lasts forever, and the screen is high quality. It's waterproof. It's got a lot going for it. So I think Motorola is the one who's making the value proposition flagship phones.
They are, but they've made a lot of people mad. There's so many of their devices that are not going to get Marshmallow that people
Right.
are flipping and freaking out. But I'm of the belief, ever since really KitKat, the necessity for the newest operating system has went on a super sharp de 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 decline, to where it would be nice to have the newest, but you do not need the newest OS.
I agree. And in some cases it's a negative because it takes it a while to settle in. Lollipop is still being updated, for some manufacturers anyway, not Google. But what I am noticing, and I'm not the first one to notice this, is that the manufacturer's crap is much more toned down now that Android has matured and the Android interface is solid and usable. And I admit, early on it wasn't. In the gingerbread days, you needed Sense UI, you needed I can't remember the others of them right now, but now companies are really dialing that back and just letting the OS be the OS. And the enhancements, for example, that Motorola are putting in, are just that. They're enhancements. They actually make the OS better instead of getting in the way.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's do a couple of apps, Dor, and then we'll do some emails. So I'll let you go first. What is your first app of the week?
Okay, first app here is a kids game, truly a kids game that runs on the GPD. Once you map the three main buttons, which is the joystick and the two buttons, it just runs like butter. Um, my I believe 7 years old and my 10-year-old both think this game is just hysterically fun. It's a Lego Scooby-Doo Haunted Island. Um, yeah, it's Legos, so it's not violent. It isn't, you know, um, there's no sex or violence in it whatsoever. It's very kid friendly. The stages themselves are very easy to do, but the bosses always have at least a little bit of a challenge to them. Where the next to last boss, my oldest had to literally play it for like 30 minutes plus on that one boss to finally beat him. Since then, he's went back and replayed it at least two more times just because he thinks it's funny, it's cool, and you can pick different characters. So the first time he went through, for the most part, he was Shaggy, and then when he went through again, a lot of the times he was Fred. Um, and I love the fact that my kids never. It's impossible for them to watch as much Scooby Doo as I watched as a kid, but they knew Scooby is the guy they said who won't stop. I'm sorry. Shaggy is the guy they said that would never stop eating, and they said Velma is obviously the smart one. I was like, well, yeah, okay. So you don't need to watch every. And I just talked for 3 minutes.
The last thing I heard was that Fred is the smart one.
Well, no, Velma.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and yeah, the kids just genuinely find this game goofy, kooky, kind of fun. And my youngest one has randomly now decided to start saying jinkies.
Well, that's a win in itself. That's a parenting win, right there.
Exactly. I literally felt more complete as a parent after I gave them this game.
Oh, well, that's great. So let's move on now to an email. We've got quite a few emails. I'm going to start with Todd Evans, who brings us an app called Infinite Loop. That's what we're going with. He says, "Hey guys, I thought I'd share a game I just came across. I would imagine it's pronounced Infinite Loop, even though its name is the infinity symbol and the word loop. Maybe it's just called Loop. Anyway, I've spent about 36 days sitting with my wife as she recovers in the hospital. I've been through a game or two, to say the least. I've been trying to find a game that was interesting, quiet, had some longevity, and could easily be interrupted. This game hits all those points. It starts off rather easy, but becomes much more interesting once you get past about a dozen puzzles or so. It's interesting in that you really have no idea where the puzzle will take you as it's presented at the beginning of the level. It's not until you've begun manipulating that you can begin to see what the pattern may be. You can even be wrong until you get very near completion. It's just interesting enough to keep me going for quite some time. I don't want much of a mental challenge being in the hospital setting. I just want to take up some downtime and keep me mildly engaged in between attending to. I realize I probably don't sound like I'm giving this game a stellar review with my tepid words of mild entertainment. Actually, I am. It does exactly what I needed to do. Nothing groundbreaking or awe inspiring, but I do find it enjoyable and even relaxing. I would say it would make a pretty good waiting in line game as well. Feel free to throw in your 2 cents on a recommendation for my situation. New stimulation is always welcome. Infinite Loop is free in the Play Store with no in-app purchases. Keep up the great work. P.S. I have to say I was originally disappointed by getting away from a 3-show week, but I fell right back into the routine very quickly."
Yeah, first off, I don't know what you believe in, Todd, but trust me when I say this, your family's in my prayers. I really do hope your wife gets out of the hospital and never has to go back into the hospital again because 36 days. Wow, that's a lot. Um, Secondly, I know I've played this game before. I know I've played this game before. This game to me is almost like Minesweeper in the sense of there is some small, quiet, nuance things that if you pick up on, you can do really good at this game. Um, helps speed up the solving process. As soon as I saw it, I had to put it on my phone, and I once in a while when my wife's talking to me, I just say yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
What you said? Oh, we got a kid in the frame.
Great, fantastic. Hi, Danny. Geez, you got to watch your face, man. You got chocolate brownie all over it. Go wash your face. I need you to go to bed, okay? I love you. Wow, that was nasty.
So I'm watching the video of the game, and it looks like the idea is just to connect all the circles. Seems simple enough, but not so much.
No, it's like the old. It has an aspect to it, which is almost like the old game Pipes.
Right. I love
But
that.
right, but you're not trying to get from place to place. It's just each square can rotate 4 times and they're just mixed up from the start. And the grid can literally be anything from like 4 to 4 to upwards of like I'd say I got it up to at least 20 by 10. So and it was pretty packed, which made it like he said, you would start it and then a certain amount of the way through you realize, nope, this one thing is wrong, which then cause a cascade effect where 80% of the moves you made earlier are wrong too. So you got to go back and fix them up.
Yeah, sounds. This is actually my kind of game. I like all the things that he said. I like casual games that just keep the mind busy, but don't require a whole lot of investment. So yeah, this looks great. An app of my own. You guys have probably brought it. I don't know. My daughter introduced it to me. Was Sticky Blobs. It's essentially World of Goo. If you've ever played that on the PC. And it's a great game like that where it's a logic puzzle thing, and there's enough difficulty to keep your mind interested, but you're not so invested that you can't just walk away at any time. So that is currently what is in invading my gray matter.
Yeah, see, and that's a hard balance to hit. It's easy to make games that are complicated and it's easy to make puzzles that aren't, that are almost too easy, but it's really hard for me to walk that line of it's hard enough to make you think, but not hard enough to make you want to throw your device.
Absolutely. So
Yeah,
there, you got an email and 3 apps all right there.
yeah, and I do think infinity loop is how it should be pronounced.
Okay. Or maybe infinite loop.
Yes, infinite loop.
One of those two. Infinity loop because it's the infinity symbol. Who knows?
I'll just say yes.
Yes, just go with it. All right, what's next on your list?
Okay, this one is one of those apps that I really do hope is going to help make me more productive. Okay, this was a Kickstarter, and I can't remember if I sent it to you or not, Mark. Um, because this is the kind of thing where if you like taking physical notes, this really could be a saving grace for categorizing, storing, delivering, and managing your data. Okay. It's called Rocketbook, Rocketbook. Okay. Now, it was it was a Kickstarter. I believe it was a Kickstarter where you would pay $40. And what you got for the $40 was the APK application for your Android device or your iOS device. You would get the app and you would get what was essentially a binder, but it was only like I think it was 10 pages long. The pages were not paper, they were actually more like laminated papers. They were a little bit stiff to them. Okay, long story short, this is has a if this then that type functionality on it, where each page has I think up to 6 icons on it. You mark which icon you want to use. Then you fill out the page how you want with physical writing on it. Then you take a picture of it with your device, and it is insanely fast to take a picture with this device. Based upon your icon, will trigger a recipe you created. The recipe could say when you mark this icon, take this picture, send it to Evernote as a new document, or it could be send it as an email to this email address, or it could be send out as a tweet, or it could be Send it to Google Drive. There's a whole bunch of different things, and the engine they have in the back seems pretty good. I will say that. Now there is plenty of physical hacks you can do this with this as well. For instance, you can literally take a page, cut out the entire page if you want, and have those icons there and put it over top of other things and take a picture, and it will take whatever is in the page and send it through those same processes. Um, this is a very interesting use. I will
It's a
say
great,
that.
yeah, it's a great melding of physical paper and keeping track with stuff. Evernote is the great digital paper, and Google Keep, for example. This is for people who like physical paper. It's a great idea. It's certainly not for me because I don't put pen on paper ever.
Well, okay, now here's the other kicker. You ready? The book itself, when you quote unquote fill up all the pages, you stick it in the microwave and it blanks all the pages out because the markers you use are Sharpie. I can't remember what the type they're called, but they basically, the heat will make the ink disappear.
Okay.
Now, if you live in Alaska or southern Canada and you leave your book in your automobile overnight, when you open up the folder the next day, all of the ink you've ever written basically will come back, which then you have to nuke it a little bit longer to get it back to being erased. But it's just one of those things you got to keep in mind. That's really what you're paying for with the $40 for the Rocketbook is the reusability. Now, if you don't want to pay the $40 for the reusability, I'm sure you could check on, I don't know, maybe this new fantastical site called Google for Rocketbook Page, and you would find yourself a PDF that you could take to a printer, print out, and just print out 100 of these things, and you can use the app, and it will technically work just fine. I want to take better notes, Mark, and I keep thinking there's going to be some piece of technology that's going to assist me and urge me and push me to do notes better. I don't know if this is it or not.
I think that device has existed for 20 years and nobody liked it. And that was the Windows tablet with the handwriting, they nailed that back in Windows XP. And it's the perfect device, the perfect world between paper and the digital. But the devices at the time were clunky and big and didn't have good battery. And so we abandoned the concept because the devices weren't there. Now we have the devices, but nobody's doing the concept.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say this is it, but if you're one of those guys, this might be something to encourage you to do better. I personally need all the extra encouragement I can get. So I'm going to try this for a couple weeks. Let's see how it pans out. And I will say, I'm sure you're going to be able to look on like Etsy here very soon, and you're going to be able to find really high quality bound books that have these pages in them
With
already
QR code.
right, already done to where you can have a really good looking book you take into meetings or with business prospects where you can open it up and write your notes in.
Yeah, and I understand that's a big deal for some people. One of the guys that I work with recently had a major milestone, and we all got together and we bought him like $100 leather bound book with a really high quality pen because he's a paper guy. And the whole time I'm thinking, this almost goes against my religious beliefs to be chipping in money for an expensive pen and paper, but I'm going to do it because I love the guy. It is so not me in any way.
Right. And I understand. I hated physical paper partially because my spelling was so bad, but thanks to computers, I'm actually now not horrible in spelling. So I'm going to give it another go.
I think maybe part of my problem is just genetic, right? When you try to pick up a golf pencil with a catcher's mitt, things don't work very well, and that's what it is for me holding a regular pen. I've got this giant meat of a hand, and when I try to write something, it just doesn't work. And maybe it's just it's purely genetics.
Well, we could chip in and get you a giant pad and
Right.
pencil.
A Big Chief tablet and the big pencils they used in kindergarten.
Exactly.
Maybe I'd be right on.
Well, here's what I never understood, Mark. Why is it little children are given huge pencils because supposedly it helps with stability and accuracy of writing.
Right.
And then when our hands get bigger, the pencil shrinks down. Wouldn't that then make writing harder?
Well, I think the idea is that you have the motor control to handle something smaller, but yeah, if you have the big hands like I do, you want a big pencil.
Yeah, yeah. That's what she said last night.
Yeah. So let's move on to our next email. I tried to get out of it. I tried to get out of it before
I
you said
know.
that.
You
It
tried.
from email. This is both an email and an app from Joe Licata. He says, I'm not sure if you've already mentioned this game or not because I can't find it on the spreadsheet. Here goes. It's called Snake King. This is the closest to the original Snake game on the old Nokia phones that I've found, but they have an arcade mode where you battle bosses with objects in your path and more difficulty. You can play it all day. Just fire it up, sit back and play a few levels or try to go at the classic mode and see how long you can go without bumping into the walls or your own tail. You can pause it with a countdown to restart, which is great while at work and your boss decides to pop his or her head into your office. Or you can change the controls with 4 different layouts, including 2 different directional pads with spacing, swipe, and tap mode. Great fun. Also, if it's not too difficult, could you add everybody's email in the Google spreadsheet sharing settings? That way we can always have it in our Google Drive share folders and never have to worry about hunting or sorting a URL. Just a thought.
What was that last part? Do what now?
So I think everybody who is signed up for the newsletter, he wants you to share the Google Doc with them.
That's a really good idea,
That's
Joe.
smart.
But no. And the reason, and I'm sorry, the reason is I'm weeks away from paying a Odesk guy to copy every single app out of the dock and put it into a system that we're going to have self-hosted on Podnutz.com in a subdomain, which will be indexable and searchable, and it's a web page, so you can create your own RSS feed for it or anything else. So the spreadsheet will be suffering a painful death. Just a question of when.
Spreadsheets are fine when you've got a few dozen apps. When you've got several million like you do, it's just not functional anymore.
Yeah, it gets overwhelming and it takes a while to load, especially on mobile devices. And I will say now about the app, it's nearly impossible to innovate this snake game and not be hokey, stupid, or pointless. Okay, the controls I'm not a fan of. I'll say that. I'm not a fan of the controls. But the fact that you can do the snake game and at the top of the screen there's basically a boss that you have to shoot and kill. At least they're trying to innovate. So I give them kudos for that. I give them also kudos for simplicity with the graphics. Yet when the boss shoots at you, it's definitely better graphics than the rest of the game. So they didn't overdo it.
And he mentions the Nokia phones, but this thing goes all the way back. I mean, I remember playing this game at Kmart on one of the computers they had set up. There was probably a VIC 20. And so, yeah, this game goes way back past the the Nokia phones. That says something probably about Joe's age. And you're right. It's hard to improve on something that has not only stood the test of time, but was built under such constraints. And I think maybe that's why a lot of the old games appeal to this casual gameplay, because they had to write it in a few K lines of code instead of gigs and gigs of data. And so that made them really focus on, gameplay dynamics instead of making it pretty. And, the snake game, you really can't improve on it, but they kind of did.
Yeah, they kind of did. And see, I kept thinking I remembered this snake game from back in the days of the old LED football games.
Yeah, maybe even farther back than that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because man, I mean, it's one of those iconic things. Something tells me when aliens come down to Earth, we can hand them a snake game and say, "Oh yeah, I know this," and they'll just sit there and play.
Yeah, I played this when I was a kid.
Exactly.
I remember an old physical game that my brother and I played. It was a baseball game, and there was a a directional controller that came out and was tethered to a card to the main body of it, and that's how you threw the pitch. And then you would hit the pitch on the main controller, and it would go, and the lights for center field would light up, and then your runner would run around. And I thought that was just the ultimate in technology. It just, I don't, that didn't have a point to that, but you were just talking about the old LED games. This was one of those. There was not even a display. It was just dots of literal red LEDs.
Yeah, we had the baseball game where on one end of the machine there were buttons, then there was the baseball diamond, and on the other end of the machine there was other buttons. To where me and my brother could hypothetically sit in the back seat of the car, each of us turn 90 degrees. I have my one side of the device, he would have his side of the device, and we could hypothetically play baseball. The problem was we both very quickly figured out as soon as you pitch the ball, if you punch the other one, the odds of them hitting it is extremely low.
And the cord length was so short you couldn't get away.
So we didn't get much fun out of the game. It caused a lot of stress and turmoil, I would say that.
And your mom said, if you don't stop that, I'm going to take that away from you.
Well, you see, Mom, South Bronx, knife fights, gunshot by one of her ears when she was young. So she was kind of completely half deaf. So unless she was facing the right direction, she couldn't hear anything. So we could just sit in the back and beat the crap out of each other. And 20 minutes later, she would wonder, well, what did I miss?
I want to submit to you that Steve McLaughlin, the door-to-door geek, your friend and mine, is the new Yogi Berra. When he says things like kind of completely half deaf.
Yes.
That's a doorism right there.
Yes. And when she took a nap, if she laid on the right side, the house could explode and she wouldn't know it.
All right. What's your next app on the list?
Okay, I will say I got more than a couple apps, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. Okay, this one. Okay, this one I actually got from I believe Ellis Owens was the guy that reminded me about this app. I found it a couple of days earlier, but it didn't work for me. Okay, it's called Black Screen of Life. We all know in the Windows world, blue screen of death. Okay, this is the black screen of life. What this app's goal is, without root, you launch the app, you click enable. Then you can play video on your device, turn off your screen, and the audio will still play.
Yay!
Yay! If it worked on my device. But here's the real reason I'm bringing it. I'm sorry, I love the design. Nothing fancy, no curved edges, no 3D effects. It's just
like his kid drew it for him.
Right. But I've had it installed for only, I think, 4 days, and I've already gotten at least 5 updates. Oh, I might have been using it wrong. I just watched the video.
So you have to block the proximity sensor?
Maybe, because I kept trying to play the video and just hitting the power button to turn off the screen, and it would go off. Oh, shocker. I'm gonna have to try this again. Okay. Because in the morning, for instance, on YouTube, any other time, I like watching videos about Mario, Zelda, awesome games done quick, SciShow, all this kind of stuff. But first thing in the morning, when I wake up, I typically have a song in my head. Sometimes it's just as simple as Honeycomb's big. Yeah. It's not small. No.
Thank you for planting that earworm.
No problem. Or it's an actual song. But either way, I typically wake up with something in my head. So I get dressed, I come downstairs, and I like taking my phone and just playing the music. I don't like having to have the screen on. So that my goal was this would fix that. And now, since I actually watched the video, it might fix it.
Yeah, so you can't turn it off because I'm guessing that's an OS thing, but you can put it in your pocket. You can do whatever there. Yeah, because I do this. I know I'm telling on myself here because I'm such a ridiculous geek. But sometimes when I've burned through all my podcasts, I'll be at work and I'll fire up Plex and I'll load a movie that I love and just listen to it. right? I can't watch it while I'm working doing my thing. Certainly I wouldn't want my boss to look over my shoulder and see me watching a movie. So I'll turn the phone upside down and just listen to this movie that I know so well I can see what's going on in my head anyway. So if this will turn the screen off while it does that, that's a win-win. Saves
Yeah,
battery.
and see, you're not the first person. Our old co-host, our latest, newest, oldest co-host, Sean Johnson, he used to take his favorite movies and literally use a handbrake and rip the audio out of it and just listen to that on his device. There's a market for that, Mark, trust me, because unlike you, I know the movie so well, I can visualize it, but it's just good, I guess, background fodder
Exactly.
when you're at work. So yeah.
I mean, most of the time when I'm watching TV, I'm not watching TV. I'm looking at my screen. I'm reading a blog entry and the TV's on. So that just sort of mimics that behavior. I think we all grew up with the constant noise of the TV. And so maybe that's it. So yeah, this black screen of life looks like a you know, because what I've done, my Nexus has the Qi charging, right? So I'll turn it upside down and then flip the Qi charging puck upside down on top of it. And even then it doesn't charge as fast as the battery drains. So this is a win. Installed door.
That's rare, and I will take that as a win. Yeah, good app. I encourage people to install this and just keep it, even if you're not sure if you're going to need it, because I guarantee you, you will. It's just a question of when. And it's free, no root. How can you beat that?
Right. All right. So this next email I've got is from Ignacio Jordi Atienza. And he
Wow.
asks,
You're getting a raise.
thanks, double it. He asks some advice, not so much an app. He says, "Hi again, taking advantage of your generous offer to help. I've been researching how to do the rooting on my phone, an LG E430. The cleanest, simplest way seems to be downloading an app that does the trick. There are also programs for Windows. Not an option for me. I had enough alienation. Thank you very much. So I found two candidates via YouTube, King Root and Towel Root. Is this the best way to go about rooting an Android device? Do you know those programs, or would you recommend another one? Always at my own risk, of course. I was about to try Towel Root already, but then I remembered that I once bricked an Android device and I wasn't even trying to root it. How's that for merit? So I thought there was no harm in asking. Maybe you have treated the issue in the show and can just point me to a chapter. Thanks again."
Okay, first off, anybody that mentions alienation gets immediate props in my book. Number one. Um, yeah, Talroot is that infamous that, like you mentioned on the last EDL mark. It is the app that you can install on your device and just click a button and you have root. It does work only on selected devices. And here's the beautiful thing about it. You load Talroot. Talroot will tell you if it will not work. So you don't even have to run it. You can't run it. If it thinks it might work, it will let you run it. I've never seen it not soft fail. All it does is soft fail. If you hit root and you can't root, it does nothing. It rolls back and there's no harm, no foul. More than likely, I'm going to guess King Root is nothing more than a fork or a alternate version of Talroot. So I am a big fan of Talroot. Simple, load the APK, hit the button, you got root. Or it does nothing.
Right. And the reason those things work only on some devices and the way they can work as an app is they're taking advantage, they're exploiting flaws in usually the proprietary code, that cruft that they add on top of the OS. Usually they'll find an exploit in that. In fact, a lot of the iPhone jailbreak devices do exactly the same thing. So you're you're worming your way in and then trying to make it permanent. Whereas, what I do is totally replace the kernel or patch the kernel or something like that. So that's why, if you hook your laptop up to a machine and use ADB and push a rooted kernel or a patch thing, you're going to have much more success across a wider range of devices, but it's a lot more effort. But yeah, doing these things, if they'll work for you, Ignacio, do it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm with Dora on that one. There's really no downside because if you can't exploit a flaw, that means you're secure. And if your device turns out to be insecure, this thing will exploit the flaw for you.
Yeah. A lot of the times, it's literally kernel level drivers for the processor itself that allows for the exploits. Here's the other tip I'll tell you. Look for it even if it says Windows, okay? Because sometimes what you'll find is an actual step by step where they tell you to run ADB commands. Those exact same commands work the exact same on Linux. The only difference is you put a period before ADB, and the exact same commands will work. And the plus to doing it on Linux is you will never have driver issues. I still to this day have not seen an Android device in fast boot mode, in bootloader mode, or in camera mode that will not just plug up and work right out of the box. On Windows, you always have to hunt for the right driver, and it is a tumor to do so.
Yeah, you do
Um,
have to install the Android Developer SDK, which is a big download, but
no,
it's not a big deal.
well, you don't have to. There is now in lots of Linux distributions a ADB package where all it does is just download ADB, and there is, I want to say it's called ADB Lite, which is just a self-extracting file. It's literally like 3 files and bang. Um, when you don't know what about those and you do the Android SDK download, even on a hardwired connection with good speeds, expect it to take 20 plus minutes.
Yeah. So I use a tool. I'm sure you can find it. It's called ADB Master, ADB dash Master. It's a Linux based. It's a Java app, so it's really cross platform, but it's designed to run in Linux. That gives you a GUI ADB. So
Oh,
you have you click it, it goes out and searches for your phones. You find it, you find your phone, you click the thing. It's all pointy clicky. There's no commands. If you wanna run a file to patch something, you actually use the browse menu, go find your file, and then click run.
what was that called again?
ADB Master.
ADB Master. I'm going to guess it's all one word just because it's not XDA developers and they have it on Google Play. It's actually a installable app on Android itself too.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I was not aware of that. I have it on my machine, but yeah, so it
Oh,
makes sense. It's since it's Java, there's no reason that it wouldn't work on the device. But that's exactly the interface in the Play Store. Yeah.
this is a great find. Thank you very much. I will say when it is like you said, Java, there's a chance. There's a chance you could download this and it would work perfectly fine on Linux.
Or on
Good,
Windows.
good app, good app, good app, Mark.
Yeah, so yeah, I run ADB Master version 0.1.5. So you got to be afraid. You can't be afraid of version numbers because it's 0.1. But I've been using that for a couple of years, and it runs really well. It works great. Some devices require you to be root before you run things. So you got to do the sudo command. It doesn't work on those. And I don't know. There's something kernel level about those devices that require that. But give it a try, Ignacio.
Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Dora, what's your next app?
Okay, this next app is an app that I was introduced to by Martin Rambo Obando, host of Geeksters on Podnutz. I looked at the app and I thought, why are you showing me this? Because it's called Computer Networking Concepts. And the first thing that went through my head was like Stuart Chaffee and Computer Chronicles for some reason. Just I was like, what are you showing me? Um, then I downloaded it and looked at it. This is actually a pretty good app for someone who is getting into computer networking and you need handy definitions. Whether it's like what is FTP, what is DHCP, what is POP3. They also take you through physical layers of networking. They also can tell you the differences between hubs and switches. What is ISDN? Uh, all the different networking cables. What does it mean when it's 5E, 6 kind of thing, Cat 5, 6? And it actually has decent graphics accompanying the definitions. This is actually a, I'll say, cheesy sounding app, but it's actually a pretty polished app for someone who wants to learn basic networking. So This to me is a very good app, and I cannot thank Martin enough.
It's basic, but if that's what you need, that's what you get.
Yep.
Sorry, you were waiting for me to add some color commentary. I didn't have any.
No. And I'm going to throw one more out there because I don't know anything about this one.
Before you move on, I just want to make a plug for a friend that I did a show with, Professor Messer. Go to professormesser.com if you're interested in learning video networking stuff. He does a whole lot of high quality free content that you could call a companion to this app. All right.
Yeah, he teaches a very broad range of topics. The best thing about his sessions, I'll say, are he speaks to you like a normal person, not like a child, and not like a expert. He speaks very normal, and to me, has the perfect pace of speech when you're learning, because some people talk too fast, and some of the things you have to think about before you can grasp. So,
right. And James is just a good guy,
unbelievably good guy. I'll say that. Okay. And I will bring one more app, and I'm also going to tell you, Mark, we do have a voicemail too. I forgot.
That's right. I forgot about that.
This is an app from Microsoft that I don't completely comprehend, get kind of thing, but something tells me for some people out there, you probably already know about this app. This looks like a really useful, functional app. It's called Microsoft OMS, and the OMS stands for Operations Management Suite. This looks like a dashboard filled with KPI, key performance indicators, that can tell you statistical facts and stats about things on your enterprise network. It can also help with a alert management, and it can pick up information from, I can't remember what the enterprise antivirus, anti-malware tool is called. It's Windows Defender, but the big boy version of it. If you're on a Microsoft network and you're the administrator of a Microsoft network, this might be a really, really handy tool to have.
This is Spiceworks for your Android phone.
Great. Thank you. That is the perfect comparison, because I knew there were other tools that did similar things. This is ultra Microsoft centric, where the other ones are anything. They can report on Mac, Linux, printers, copiers, scanners, power supply units, and Microsoft boxes.
It only says it has 100 to 500 installs, so it must be brand new.
Or ridiculously expensive to implement in your environment.
Well, there's that. Yeah, the app is free, but the stuff behind it costs millions of dollars.
Yeah.
All right, so I can't believe I forgot. I'm falling down on my host duties. Let's play that voicemail from beyond the grave. No, that's not quite right.
This just in, Mark. We just got this voicemail as we were on the show.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
Hey, Dor. Hey, Mark. Hey, great show so far. Last episode was really good too. I don't know, you guys got something better about the last, like this episode so far, and that last episode, something better about it. I don't know. I just wanted to let you know that my secret mission has gone a little longer than expected, and I can't be with you guys tonight. So far the show's going just fine without me though, and I'm actually in a new virtual world. I'm living inside of a ViewMaster 3D VR headset. So when I come out of this place and my phone battery dies, then I'll probably rejoin the real world again and come back to the show and back to reality. Have a great show. I will hopefully be there next week to join you guys. And thanks for everybody else for listening. Have a good night.
So Eric has joined the realm of Ready Player One, and that's the problem. He's jacked in to the multiverse.
Yeah, it's or Johnny Mnemonic. Maybe they put too many megabytes in his head.
That had the potential to be a good movie. It
Oh,
so was not a good movie.
It should have been a fantastic movie. Instead, it was a steaming pile of garbage.
So Eric from the Oasis says hello.
Yes, and something tells me they're going to need to pull out like a spooger and literally pry that Mattel Viewmaster off of his head.
So we miss you, Eric. You may think the show is better without you, but we miss you.
Well, no. It quote unquote is better, and you know why, Mark? Before you were on the show, listening to the show was a better experience.
That's true. That is
didn't
true.
know what to hear. The reason he thinks it's better is because it's all brand new.
That's probably my single biggest regret about coming to host the show is I don't get to listen to it anymore.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We don't have a DeLorean ready, or else I could take care of that.
I can't believe we let that pass. Yesterday was Back to the Future Day.
And it's weird how inaccurate, utterly ridiculous. Well, and that's the whole thing. The two things that make movies look bad is A, when they try to show what they think is cool modern technology, and then you watch the movie like 2 years later and they're using flip phones and you're laughing at them. Or when they try to predict anything that's happening in the future. To me, that's why stuff like Dune and Star Wars still holds up, because they're not trying to say this is what stuff's going to be like. We're like, I mean, yes, technically Donald Trump looks like Biff Tanner, and yes, he has his own building, his own tower,
and the Cubs may win the World Series,
and the Cubs are in it at least. But arcade machines are still very widely known. There's no new types of
hoverboards.
No, well, of course, a hoverboard. And here's the thing that made me feel really old, Mark. We are right now today to the release of Back to the Future as Michael J. Fox's character was when he went back in time.
Yes.
That was 30 years previous to then, and it was like old and archaic and this, old technology kind of thing that people, like scoffed at. That's how far we are from the original Back to the Future, which made me really stop and think. How, to me, I just take all this stuff for granted. If I go back to 1985, something tells me I'm going to need to be medicated.
Right. I would never go back. I couldn't go back. I have surrendered my higher brain functions to Google. If I go back to pre-Google era, all I could do is just drool and moan.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine having to wait 7 days in order to watch the next episode of Transformers?
Oh, man.
I mean, no. Now, super quick tangent. Have you seen Transformers Devastation, the new video game?
I have not.
Oh my goodness, Mark. It is Transformers G1, as I've heard the kids call it, which is the first generation of Transformers.
I saw a YouTube video. I haven't actually seen the video, but yes, I'm familiar with what it is.
Wow. This is what the movie should have been, period. I will say that. That's how they should have looked. I literally made a bag of popcorn in the microwave the other night and sat there and watched someone playing that game for an hour, and I was thoroughly entertained.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And a side tangent on the side tangent. I watched it on YouTube. Did you hear about the changes coming to YouTube?
Yes, I have, and I'm totally not interested.
Here's the thing. I firmly believe they are doing this with the expectation 98+% of the people out there, this ain't for you.
It's for the kids.
It's for the kids and the people who are hooked on watching hours of YouTube every day. And I mean literally hours, like 6 hours of YouTube a day kind of thing. That's who it's for. And for them to spend $10 a month to have no ads, imagine how much time they're going to save.
Right.
Now, the bad part is something tells me very soon or soon thereafter, we're not going to have the ability to skip an ad after 5 seconds.
Oh, to drive people to that. Wow, that's nefarious. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, neither did I, because I can't think. But that's what I was told. And once I heard that, I was like, wow, that would be really, really dirty of them, but it's possible. Now, I've heard a lot of YouTube creators, in air quotes, being super upset and mad, and I'm not going to take it anymore kind of stuff, because you either have to say you're okay with the YouTube Red program and join it, or else they're going to take your channel down. To which I say, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, go, bye, bye, fine. If you don't want to be a part of it, bye. You're on their planet. You play by their rules. That's why everything I put up has no monetization. Why? Because then I don't have to agree to anything. You can go and watch all the Podnutz content you want without paying $10, and I am not pushing any ads into it.
When you build your high rise on somebody else's foundation, that's a mistake.
Exactly. Now, if you're smart, what you do is you put teasers or you put certain content on YouTube, but then you put your actual content on sites and domains that you control. And if you're too cheap, too incompetent, or too lazy to do that, then don't complain when the game changes.
Yeah, if my hosting company went away, if the NSA raided them and took all their servers, I could rebuild my entire content in a couple of days. It would take a while to upload everything again, but everything I have is either backed up or redundant. And because I've never trusted any one entity for that. And you know, people like PewDiePie, he's making millions of dollars a year and he owns nothing.
Yep.
And good for him for making millions of dollars a year, but that rug could easily be pulled out from under him.
Yeah. If we had a DeLorean and went back in time and Marty would see what he's doing and realizing he owns nothing, he would say, whoa, heavy.
Right.
Because he's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot.
But he's a rich idiot.
Oh,
there are lots of them.
And I hope he saves it all now.
Right. Because, yeah, there's no longevity in that business.
No.
Just another time travel tangent. I've been subjecting my kids. I mean, I've been enjoying with my kids MacGyver reruns on Netflix. And there was an episode we were watching the other day where MacGyver goes to this white box with a black square sitting on top of it with green text and two flip out drawers under that. And my 7-year-old said, "Daddy, what's that?" I said, "That's a computer, honey." "No, it's not." "Yes, it is a computer. Circa 1984, that's what computers looked like. But what you were talking about, that was right the same age there, right around 30 years later, the device is not recognizable as the device.
No, and you and me both know. If you had that device now, what could you possibly do on it?
Oh, my watch has more processing power than that.
Right. I mean, the only thing you can do on it is write text. You know, you can play old text-based games that, you know, I don't think you would find too much enjoyment in, except for that. Yeah. Except for that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, really, I don't know what you can do. I don't know what you can, if you had one and no internet, no modern computer, no tablet, no phone, one of those computers, I don't know what the hell you would do after 20 minutes.
I don't know. I mean, it would take me that long to remember how an 8-inch floppy disk worked.
Yeah, that of course, if I would mess up the auto exec.bat, you know, it's no good anymore.
You know, I'm an expert in technology. That's my job, and it's my pastime at the same time. Almost everything I know came from me messing up an auto exec.bat and having to figure it out.
Oh, yeah. The breakers, people who break stuff, learn how to fix it, or else you go outside and you become good at basketball.
Right. There was no Linux Academy, pardon me for pushing one of my advertisers on the show. Resources like that didn't exist for me. There was no platform. There was no Khan Academy. There was nothing like that. If you wanted to know something, you figured it out yourself.
Right. Or you went to the public library and tried to research it.
Yeah, the books. I think I'm going to save the rest of this email for a while. So if you've got one other app, let's do that and then wrap up.
Okay, let me scroll through. Okay, I'm going to bring this one just because I feel both ways about this app. Okay. This app is called Krokodil Browser Pro. There's multiple versions of Krokodil out there, okay? Krokodil was a browser created by two Nigerian, I believe pre-teenagers, like 12 or 13 years old, who said that they were upset with how long it would take the Chrome browser to load on their device. Now, since Chrome browser is based off of, I can't remember what it is now. It's based off of an open source backend
WebKit.
WebKit. Thank you very much, sir. So what they did was they took basically the exact same backend engine and put their own quote unquote Chrome on it, because Chrome is everything around the browser itself. And they made it unbelievably lighter and quicker, and it just works. I've been using it now for nearly a week. It's very simplistic. There's no curved edges. There's no stupid effects. It just works. Now, maybe I'm going to play devil's advocate. Maybe any day now I'm going to get a pop-up that tells me that they're a long lost relative who's a prince who has hundreds of millions of dollars waiting in a bank account that they can't access and get out of the country, and they just need a couple $100 to help them out. Maybe I might get that, but I don't think I am. So I'm still using this, and I'm going to keep using this browser until something better, quote unquote, quote, comes along. Because right now, all I need is something light. I do believe I've had to launch LastPass separately and manually copy and paste credentials to log into websites. There isn't. I don't believe autofill is working on this. But everything else loads so quick. I'm not mad at it.
They're also working, I went to their website on a project called Croc Chat, which is a peer-to-peer secure chat. It looks like it's still pre-release, but something to watch out for.
Right. Well, there's multiple versions of Krokodil Browser because after this started to become popular, a Nigerian company basically hired the kids, gave them money and said, here, you kids are doing good. Keep doing more good stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. I'm just going to mention one more thing really quick. YouTube gaming. This is a app. It's actually been out for a little while. This was supposed to basically compete with Twitch. You open the app, then you can type in Transformers Devastation, and you can watch live viewings of it, or you can search for older viewings of it, kind of thing, and you can just watch it on your device. Well, now, built into it, without root needed, you can stream games from it. So that to me is, I don't want to say it's a game changer, but when you can let anybody create content like this, hopefully it will encourage them to make better content, learn what makes better content, and keep moving forwards, kind of thing.
So streaming games from your phone?
From your Android device, whether it's a phone or a tablet. You basically,
so while you're playing your, Angry Birds, you can stream it to the web.
Yes. And it's literally like one click.
With your face in it. So it's got your front facing camera is on too.
You can turn that on. You can leave it off. It's up to you, kind of thing. Most of the videos I watched, people were turning it off.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was just very easy. Basically, as soon as you launch it up, as soon as you launch the app, I want to say it was like one button away, and voila, you were streaming, frictionless streaming.
Because the things I've seen people do now, they're running emulators. And you'll see the cursor, right, where registering their touches, and they're having to do that to capture the screen and send it to YouTube. So this is really, it's not my niche, but this is certainly meeting the needs of a niche.
Well, and honestly, the reason I like it is because it allows me as a content creator, if I want, to be able to stream these to YouTube on a private, unlisted web page that when I'm done streaming it, I can download the full quality video from it. So I can use YouTube as a tool if I want, instead of a delivery mechanism. I can use it as a tool to simply record my stuff, or I can have it hosted. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Google is trying to take over the Twitch market without a doubt.
And I don't mean to say it like this, but I wish them all the luck just because competition.
Right.
I want people, because for a while there, nobody competed with Twitch.
That's a solid roundup of apps and emails, and I hope you enjoyed it. Dor, if somebody wanted to contribute to the show as these emailers have done, how could they contact us?
The easiest way is email, aaa@podnutz.com. You can also send us a voicemail, just like Mr. Silicon Wrench did, at 7076 Podnut. You call that up, immediately kicked over to a voicemail, and we get the MP3 file from it. I'm going to add more contact information on podnutz.com. I'll like really on the fly here, Mark. When you go to podnutz.com now, on the side, you see shows if you scroll down, and you see now RSS feed links and iTunes links. I'm also going to have a email icon there to allow people to email each individual show.
All right. And if you ever wanted to contact me directly, you could find me over at elementop.com. That's my website. Or just send an email to mark@elementop.com. But do check out my stuff. I enjoy being here and doing this, but I also do my own stuff. And if you like what you hear here, go check it out there, because there's a lot more of it. elementop.com.
You really mess with my head there. If you like what you hear here, and I had to stop and like compute that in my head.
Here. Yes. If you like what you hear on this show, does that make you feel better?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And of course, if you want to throw money at Dor, Amazon.com/Podnutz or Podnutz.com/Amazon. I said that backwards. Or let's see, the eBay link is broken, you said, because it's useless.
Well, kind of. And we do have our Patreon. No new Patreoners this week. But I want to thank everyone for their support using that service.
So do you have a redirector on your website? Could I go to podnutz.com/Patreon?
Are you going to try it right now?
Yes, I am.
Then no. But if you were going to say no, then I would say yes, because I can make that happen.
Yeah, you need to make that happen.
I do.
Because, yeah. I don't know if you got it. I got an email from Podbean. They're trying to set up their own thing that's comparable to Patreon. Fine. Again, the more the better. Competition is great, but Patreon is awesome from both I am both a supporter and a receiver of money through Patreon, and that process is really just butter. The only thing I would like to be able to do is schedule my posts, but otherwise it's a great experience for both the supporter and the supported. So I encourage you, if not this show, some other, go to patreon.com and just see what great people are doing and see how your pennies can add up to help them.
Ditto and ditto and ditto and ditto.
All right, so I think that's going to wrap us up. Thanks for letting me be here, Dor. Thank you for being the awesome app maven that you are. And listener, you are the reason we do this show. Quite literally, you are the reason we do it. So thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for downloading. If you want to check us out live, Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time is when you need to check us out. We love having you in the live show, and we would like to see more of that. So check us out there. But for now, I think that wraps up this episode of the Android App Addicts podcast.
Awesome. Gotta save the file now, or else I'm going to mess it up. I know that from past experiences. Okay, and the stream is still going.
All right. I shall save my cursing for later. Because you know I'm a potty mouth.
Oh, complete. Yeah, my boss at work was very clear in a meeting. He closed the door and he said, I know I'm not supposed to cuss, but I'm going to cuss. And if it offends you, I'm sorry. Get over it. I was like,
the boss can say that sort of stuff.
Well, I appreciate when a boss is honest about stuff. And he said, look, I'll try not to, but I'm going to cuss because stuff was not working right.
I've worked with many bosses in the past that were good managers, but the one thing missing was that they needed to grow a pair and be a boss. because boss spelled backwards is double SOB.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that's what you got to be.
Well, this guy grew up in not a great place in Maryland. A lot of the people from his youth, he's now 60. Huge amount of them have been dead for years or in jail. The only thing I would like to be. He ended up being able to go for free after the Marines to the Harvard Business School for I want to say a year's worth of stuff. And then he came out of there, ended up working at the Baltimore World Trade Center, and then hopped over to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac kind of thing. There's no, you never have to worry about him holding back. You know what I mean? Ever. And I really do like that. Cause that was like me. Most of my bosses I've had in my life we had a guy who kept saying, yeah, they call me the hatchet man. Really? How many people have you fired? What? I fired a lot. When was the last time you fired somebody? Then I asked his secretary, when was the last time that he fired somebody? Oh, about 15 years ago. Hatchet man. Yeah, right.
I don't enjoy. I've done it. Never enjoyed it. And I think when you start enjoying it, that's when there's a problem.
Well, and that's what he said. He said, it's not about enjoying it. He said, at the time, there's few things more painful because you might be ruining somebody's life.
Yeah.
He said, but you always had to remember you're doing it for the better of the company, the institution, the division, the unit, and the team. And you really hope it's going to make them go and be better people. It's like, wow, that actually makes sense. But yeah, he's threatened people a lot, telling them, I will. And then usually they straighten up, which is good. Yeah, I'm going to stop the live stream here.